David Bressler was a senior analytics guy working full-time at a company he'd been with since 2011. He had entrepreneurial dreams but zero time to chase them, until July 2022 when he got 6 weeks of paternity leave for his youngest kid. One weekend during that leave, he built an Excel formula generator using no code and GPT-3. No fancy tech stack. Just a single-page web app where you type your problem and it spits out the Excel formula. He posted it on Reddit before going to bed. The next morning, 100,000 people had visited his site. The post had 10,000 upvotes, and he had a surprise $5,000 OpenAI API bill. 2 years later, Formula Bot makes $226,000 per month. That's $2.7 million per year. And here is the part that fascinates me the most. While David was building a simple tool that solves one annoying Excel problem during paternity leave, thousands of developers with way more technical skills were sitting in coffee shops, arguing about whether to use React or Vue for their revolutionary AI app that never launched. This isn't a story about David being a genius. It's a story about a simple web app idea that solved a real, immediate problem for people who just wanted to get back to work. And today, I'm breaking down 7 of these ideas. 7 stupidly simple web application ideas that turned day jobs into 7-figure businesses, while everyone else was still overthinking their tech stack. Let's start with the most counterintuitive one, because it's going to reset how you think about what makes a valuable web app. AJ was a freelance designer selling website templates in 2015. He'd been doing it for years, making decent money, building a following on Twitter. Responsive design was getting popular, and he wanted to challenge himself to build something that used everything he'd learned about making websites that worked on any screen size. So he built Card, a website builder for one-page sites only, not multi-page websites, not full-blown portfolios with galleries and blogs, just clean, simple, beautiful one-page sites, landing pages, personal profiles, basic portfolios. That's it. He launched it on Twitter in March 2016 with a single tweet that said, "Done. Card equals a free platform for building simple, fully responsive, one-page sites for pretty much anything." His first 100 users came from Twitter. His first $1,000 in revenue came after launching on Product Hunt. And here's the kicker. Card charged $19 per year. Not per month, per year. Everyone told him he was underpricing. Everyone said he needed to add more features to compete with Wix and Squarespace. But AJ didn't listen. He kept it stupidly simple, focused on doing one thing perfectly, and let word of mouth do the rest. By 2020, Card was making $30,000 per month. By 2021, over $1 million per year with 2.5 million sites created. 0 employees, no marketing budget, just one person who decided to build the simplest possible version of something people actually needed. Today, Card has over 3 million sites, powers thousands of creator businesses, and AJ eventually raised a small funding round, not because he needed money, but because rapid growth after a Kim Kardashian tweet brought infrastructure questions he didn't have answers for. The psychology here is beautiful. People don't want complexity. They want their problem solved fast so they can move on with their day. AJ didn't try to compete with the big players on features. He competed on simplicity and speed. And that constraint, that decision to only do one-page sites, is exactly what made it successful. If he tried to build a full website builder, he would have drowned in feature requests and burned out. Instead, he built something so focused that it became irreplaceable for a specific use case. And honestly, that's the pattern you're going to see in every single story today. These aren't revolutionary ideas. They're focused solutions to annoying problems. Let me tell you about someone who didn't even start out trying to build a business. Peter Levels was a Dutch guy who studied music production and worked as a techno DJ. By 2014, he was broke, living with his parents, watching his friends get prestigious jobs while he had basically no income. He was frustrated, so he challenged himself to launch 12 startups in 12 months. Most of them failed. But the fourth one, launched in late 2014, was different. It was called Nomad List. At the time, Peter was traveling constantly, trying to figure out the best places to live as a digital nomad. But there was no site that let him compare cities based on cost of living, internet speed, weather, and safety all in one place. So he made a Google spreadsheet and shared it on Twitter. He accidentally left the permissions open so anyone could edit it. Strangers started adding cities, updating information, and sharing it everywhere. It went viral. So Peter turned it into a website. Not a fancy one. Just a simple directory of cities with rankings and data. Then he added a paid community feature where digital nomads could meet each other, $75 for lifetime access. Within a few months, he had thousands of paying members. By 2015, Nomad List was doing serious revenue. Today, Nomad List makes over $1.5 million per year. Peter's other project, Remote OK, a job board for remote workers, makes over $2 million per year. Combined, Peter makes around $3 million per year as a solo founder, with no employees, just automating everything and outsourcing what he can't. He's traveling the world with a backpack and a laptop, living the exact life he designed when he was broke and living with his parents. Here's the thing about Peter's story that makes me want to scream it from the rooftops. He didn't build Nomad List because he thought it would make millions. He built it because he needed it. And when he shared it publicly, thousands of other people realized they needed it too. And the simplest no-code web app ideas always start like this. Someone gets annoyed, builds a tool for themselves, shares it, and realizes they're not alone. Hi, I'm Fariha. I'm building a $100,000 per month AI business, and I share simple web app ideas every week. You don't want to miss this stuff. So, hit that subscribe button and let's jump back in. Speaking of people who built something because they needed it, let me tell you about Cortland Allen. Cortland had worked at startups, gone through Y Combinator, and by 2016 he wanted to start something new. But he was tired of the Silicon Valley model of raising millions and chasing unicorn exits. He wanted to learn from people who were building profitable businesses without venture capital. So he built Indie Hackers, a simple website where founders could share their revenue numbers, tell their stories, and help each other. He started by manually interviewing 10 founders and publishing their stories on a basic blog. No fancy features. No community forum yet. Just 10 honest interviews about how people were making money online. He launched it in August 2016. Within a few months, Indie Hackers was getting hundreds of thousands of visitors. By early 2017, Cortland was making around $7,000 to $8,000 per month from ads and affiliate links. Then in April 2017, something crazy happened. He got an email from Patrick Collison, the CEO of Stripe, asking if he wanted to be acquired. Cortland thought it was fake at first, but it wasn't. Stripe acquired Indie Hackers 8 months after it launched because the community was exactly the audience Stripe wanted to support. Founders building profitable internet businesses. Cortland kept running Indie Hackers independently under Stripe, and today it has over 100,000 members and one of the most engaged founder communities on the internet. The lesson here is almost offensive in its simplicity. Cortland didn't build a revolutionary platform. He just created a place for people to share their stories transparently. No gatekeeping, no fluff, just real numbers and real advice. And that transparency, that focus on being useful instead of impressive, is what made it valuable enough for Stripe to acquire in under a year. Next up is someone who went from day job to disaster to redemption in the most dramatic way possible. Sahil Lavingia was 19 years old, working as the second employee at Pinterest. He had an idea for a platform that would let creators sell digital products directly to their audience with simple links. No storefront needed. Just click, pay, download. He built Gumroad over a weekend in April 2011 and launched it on Hacker News. 52,000 people checked it out on day one. He quit Pinterest before his stock even vested to work on Gumroad full-time. Within 6 months, he raised $1.1 million from an all-star cast of investors including Naval Ravikant and Chris Sacca. A few months later, he raised $7 million more. He was 19, a solo founder with over $8 million in the bank and 3 employees. The world was taking note. He thought Gumroad would become a billion-dollar company. It didn't. By 2015, growth had stalled. They were burning $350,000 per month, and Sahil couldn't raise a Series B. Investors told him to shut down Gumroad and start something new. But he didn't want to abandon the creators whose livelihoods depended on the platform. So he laid off 75% of the company, including many of his best friends. He moved from San Francisco to Utah and kept working on Gumroad alone, fixing bugs and answering support emails himself. For years, he considered himself a failure, but he kept going. Slowly, the creator economy started growing. Gumroad stayed alive long enough to catch the wave. In 2021, Sahil raised $5 million through crowdfunding from Gumroad's own creators. Today, Gumroad makes over $20 million per year in revenue with 0 full-time employees. Sahil runs it with freelancers and automation. Creators have earned over $600 million through the platform. And Sahil, who once thought he'd failed, is now one of the most respected voices in indie entrepreneurship. He even wrote a book called The Minimalist Entrepreneur about building profitable, sustainable businesses without the Silicon Valley chaos. Here's what Sahil's story teaches us. The cool web app ideas that win aren't always the ones that grow the fastest. Sometimes they're the ones that survive long enough to be in the right place when the market catches up. Gumroad's idea was simple from day one. Let creators sell stuff with a link. But it took a decade of persistence, a near-death experience, and a complete mindset shift for that simple idea to become a $20 million per year business. Okay, real talk for a second. Almost every video on my other channel gets the exact same comment. Okay, this idea is actually good. Number 4 is exactly what I needed. But how do I know which one to build? Every single time. And honestly, I get it. Building the thing isn't even the hard part anymore. Bolt exists, Bubble exists, AI can write your code. The hard part is picking the right idea. The one that can actually get 1,000 paying customers. The one that hits $1 million ARR in 3 years, not 5. The one you won't abandon after 3 months because you realize too late there's no market. So, I built something for exactly that problem. Founder Friend. It helps you find and validate web app ideas before you waste months building the wrong thing. It's not launched yet, but I'm letting a few people in early. I've linked the waitlist in the pinned comment below. First 2 months for select people on the waitlist are completely free when it goes live. You'll see it before everyone else. Test it, help shape it. This isn't for people who want to keep watching idea videos forever. This is for people who are ready to pick one idea and actually start building. Alright, now let's talk about the idea that proves you don't need to be a developer to build a 7-figure web app. Charles Thomas was a marketing guy in 2017 who wanted to build a curated freelance marketplace. Not like Upwork where you're drowning in mediocre profiles. A marketplace where Charles personally vetted every freelancer to ensure only the top 1% made it through. The problem? Charles didn't know how to code at all. So he used no code, which in 2017 was way less developed than it is today. It had scalability issues, limited features, and a fraction of the polish it has now. But Charles didn't care. He built Comet in a few weeks, launched an MVP, and started manually curating freelancers. Within a couple of months, Comet was generating $800,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Let me say that again so it sinks in. $800,000 per month. From a marketplace built on a no-code tool by a guy who'd never written code before. Venture capital firms noticed immediately. In 2017, Comet raised $2 million in seed funding. A year later, they raised another $12.8 million. By 2023, Comet had helped freelancers complete over 300 projects for more than 1,000 companies and was still doing over $800,000 per month in revenue. The reason this worked is almost too simple. Charles didn't try to compete with Upwork by being cheaper or having more freelancers. He competed by being pickier. He solved the trust problem. Companies don't want 1,000 options. They want 3 great options they can trust. That's it. That's the entire value proposition. And he built it using no code, prioritizing curation over scale, which is the opposite of what every marketplace founder thinks they're supposed to do. But here's where Charles really nailed it. He didn't automate too early. He manually vetted every single freelancer profile in the beginning, which sounds insane and unscalable. But it's exactly why Comet's reputation spread so fast. People trusted it because someone was actually checking the quality. Later, once he had the revenue and funding, he automated parts of it. But in the beginning, manual, tedious, human work, that's what made it a web app idea that turned a day job into a multi-million-dollar business. Now here's one that's going to sound so boring you'll almost skip it. But stick with me because this is where the real money is. There's a company called Coins started by 2 founders, Nate Washington Jr. and Christian Zimmerman. They both had day jobs and were frustrated with how hard it was to pay off debt. Not because they didn't have money, but because debt payoff felt overwhelming and easy to ignore. So they built something stupidly simple using no code. You link your bank account, and every time you make a purchase, Coins rounds it up to the nearest dollar and sends that extra change toward your debt. Buy coffee for $3.75? Coins charges you $4 and sends $0.25 to your credit card balance. That's it. No AI. No blockchain. Just automated micropayments that chip away at your debt without you even noticing. They launched it, and people loved it because it removed the mental load of debt payoff. 25 cents here, 50 cents there. It adds up, but it never feels painful. In 2018, Coins raised $750,000 in angel funding. Since then, they've helped people pay over $30 million in debt. They won the FinTech Innovation Award Challenge, the biggest award for fintech companies in the United States. And they did it with a 2-person team using no code. And last one, because I want to end on something that ties all of this together. Tara Reid was working at Microsoft in 2014, doing product marketing, making good money, living in Seattle. She wanted to collect affordable art for her apartment, but there was no easy way to get personalized art recommendations unless you had $10,000 to hire an art advisor. So she thought, why isn't there a Netflix for art? Something that matches you to artwork based on your taste, but affordable. She didn't know how to code. She didn't have $20,000 to hire developers. So she built Collector using Strikingly for the website, Typeform for collecting user preferences, and Google Sheets for tracking everything. The MVP was scrappy as hell. She'd manually curate art recommendations for each user based on their survey responses. But it worked. She launched it, posted it in art and design communities, and people loved it. Within 6 months, she had 400 active users and had generated $30,000 in art sales. She got accepted into 500 startups, one of the most prestigious startup accelerators in the world. She raised under $500,000 in funding. After her TEDx talk about building Collector without code went viral, she started getting hundreds of emails from non-technical entrepreneurs asking for help. So she launched Apps Without Code, a school that teaches people how to build software without coding. Apps Without Code is now a multi-million-dollar business, completely bootstrapped. No VC funding. Tara makes more from teaching people how to build no-code app ideas 2025 than she ever made from Collecto itself. The lesson here is perfect. Tara didn't succeed because she had a revolutionary idea. She succeeded because she was willing to launch something imperfect and iterate in public. Most people would have waited until they had a fully automated art matching algorithm before launching. Tara launched with Google Sheets and manual curation. She validated the idea first, then built the tech. And when people kept asking her how she did it, she turned that curiosity into her real business. So let's zoom out for a second and talk about what all of these stories have in common. None of these people were trying to escape their day jobs when they started. David had a full-time analytics job. AJ was freelancing successfully. Peter was broke and living with his parents. Yeah, but he wasn't building Nomad List to get rich. He was building it because he needed it. Cortland had gone through Y Combinator and worked at startups. Sahil was employee number 2 at Pinterest. Charles was doing marketing. Nate and Christian had jobs. Tara was at Microsoft. They all started with day jobs or careers, and they all built simple web application ideas that solved one specific, annoying problem. You have to be willing to be embarrassed by your first version. You have to be okay with it being simple, maybe even a little janky. Because the alternative is spending months building something perfect that nobody wants, and that's way more embarrassing. Every single person I talked about today said the same thing in interviews. They were scared to launch. They thought it wasn't ready. And then they launched anyway, and that's the only reason we're talking about them today. The ones who waited, we're not talking about them. Because they're still waiting. Which one would you actually build if you had to start tomorrow? Seriously, drop it in the comments. I'm curious what resonates. And here's the thing. You don't need a new idea. Most of these were old problems that just hadn't been solved in a way that felt easy and obvious. That's your opportunity. Find something people complain about constantly at their day jobs, build the simplest possible version of a solution, and share it where they're already complaining. That's it. That's the whole formula. And if you do that, you're going to be ahead of 90% of people who are still overthinking, still planning, still waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is just the moment you decide to start. None of these people knew their simple web app ideas would become seven-figure businesses. They just knew they had a problem, and they were tired of waiting for someone else to solve it. So they solved it themselves. And when other people showed up saying, "Hey, I have that problem too," they said, "Cool. Here's the solution. It costs $19 a year, or $75 for lifetime access, or $8 a month, or whatever felt right." And that's how day jobs turn into seven-figure businesses. Not through genius, through action. And listen, if you sat through this whole thing, you're clearly trying to figure out what to build, which is exactly why I'm building Founder Friend. Helps you find problems worth solving, validate them before you touch no code, and figure out if they can actually get to $1M in valuation. If that's you, go join the waitlist. It's linked in the pinned comments.